إن شاء الله. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سورة ياسين مكية. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Mu'mineen, tonight we commemorate the Eisal-e-Thawab Majlis for marhum Dr. Amr Syed, son of Mr. Imtiaz Syed. This is on behalf of his sister, Dr. Saqiba Syed, and her family. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him in the deepest ranks of paradise. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant the family with patience. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of his a'mal in his life. We recite a Surah Al-Fatiha for his soul. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim.
Hazrat Zaidi sahab do char sher padna chahte hain.
Acha, theek. We also remember those who are in need of dua for their health and safety. Please recite with me verse number 62 of Surah An-Naml together 5 times. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amman yujibul mudtarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. 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 Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Inshallah, before I invite Maulana, there's a request that Brother Syed for some shairi, for some poetry, for some words. Invite him with a nice and loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli.
जी जी बाबा से बुलंद सलावत सिर्फ सवाब के लिए 2-3 शेर की ज़हमत है। अली है फातिमा है अहमद मुख्तार बैठे हैं बपा है मजलिस-ए गम शेख मातमदार बैठे हैं। फरिश्तों चुप रहो मौका नहीं तुरबत में बातों का मेरी बाली पे देखो हैदरे करार बैठे हैं खड़े हैं सामने अब्बास लेने रुखसते मैदान कमर हाथों से पकड़े सैयदे अबरार बैठे हैं अली है फातिमा है सलावत।
Jazakallah khair. At this time, I'd like to invite Maulana Syed Rizwan Rizvi to recite tonight's Eisal-e-Thawab Majlis with a nice and loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم. Please recite another Surah Fatiha for marhum Dr. Amir Syed ibn Mr. Imtiaz Syed. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُم مُّصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ راجعون. صلوات الله محمد وآل محمد. This Eisal-e-Thawab Majlis for marhum Dr. Amir Syed. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate the status of marhum, give sabr and patience to the bereaved family for the loss that they have suffered. Indeed, losing a loved one, regardless of when and what age, is a difficult one. And losing someone at a young age is just that more difficult to swallow and more difficult to face. But of course, these are different imtihanat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed for mankind. And if you face more and more imtihan, which means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves you that much more. A lot of time people look at others who are constantly facing difficulties and turmoil in their life. And they say, well, you know, how unfortunate so-and-so is that they are constantly facing turmoil in their life. While in reality is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala considers that person to be more beloved. That's why He is putting him in more and more challenges in this life. La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not place the burden on someone beyond their capability. So when He thinks that you are capable of bearing this difficulty, only then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala presents you with that difficulty. And if that was the case, that the one who's suffering the most and constantly facing challenges and difficulties is the most unfortunate, then I would disagree with you. What would you say about Prophet of Islam, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? The Prophet of Grace, the one who from the very beginning of his life is born as an orphan, right? Can you imagine the difficulty of an orphan? We can't, unless someone goes through the orphanage. Someone lives in an orphanage. Someone faces that when his own or her own father is not there to take care of them, that void, that gap in the life is one of the most difficult ones. Rasulullah, Allah wanted him to face the difficulty of an orphan, how to feel that when someone loses their father, oh Prophet, we're going to raise you as an orphan. And therefore, from the very beginning, we see that how Rasulullah is without a father. But of course, grandfather steps in, his uncle steps in to take care of the Prophet. But when he begins his propagation, someone who has never thought of hurting anyone, the thought has not crossed his mind to harm anyone, how is he facing the challenges in his life? Where we find that when he goes for the propagation, people are throwing and pelting stones at him. When he goes to Taif, you've heard and you've read in the history how he was dealt with. When Rasulullah is propagating the boycott that happens for 3 years, when they spend 3 years in Shaybeh Abi Talib. And when we see that his migration eventually that takes place, and that's just the example of our Prophet. You study Quran, you will find numerous examples of other Anbiya who faced turmoil and difficulty in their life. You start with the turmoil and the difficulty of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam. There's an entire chapter in which Hazrat Nuh is reciting his own eulogy, in other words. He said, oh Allah, I propagated your deen laylan wa nahara, day and night. But how many people came close to me? In fact, they mocked me, they ridiculed me, they did istihza. When I would go ahead and speak to them, they would put their fingers in their ears. They would cover their heads with cloaks to show disrespect to me. And if that wasn't enough, they would throw things at me by which there would be wounds on the body of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam. This is the sila that he is getting for being Nuhun Nabiyullah, right? When we read in Quran, when we talk about the different anbiya that are mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions 25, 26 anbiya in Quran. He mentions some of them in this way. وَسَلَامٌ عَلَى Ibrahim. وَسَلَامٌ عَلَى Ismail. But when he speaks about Hazrat Nuh, he says, وَسَلَامٌ عَلَى نُوحٍ فِي الْعَالَمِينَ. There's a difference. That salam and peace be upon Nuh in Alameen. Because Nuh is not an ordinary individual. He is amongst the Ulul Azm Anbiya. He is Abul Bashar Thani. And therefore, he is spoken in this certain way. Then you further look and explore in Quran, you find the example of Hazrat Ayyub alayhi wasalam. That's why I guess in our language, it became a slang, Sabr Ayyub. Right? When you give someone that, someone is facing difficulty, say, may Allah give you Sabr Ayyub, inshallah. How Hazrat Ayyub alayhi wasalam faced the difficulty in his life. Riwayat mention, and Quran also talks about it, Riwayat further elaborate on the fact that how for 17 years, not 17 days, not 17 weeks, not 17 months, 17 years, Hazrat Ayyub, Job, had faced difficulty after difficulty after difficulty. And that too when he was enjoying all the favors and the benefits from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Had a very beautiful house, had family, children, had his own business, and there weren't any worries. He was easily propagating the madhab. He was easily propagating the wahdaniyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet what happens? His house was taken away from him. His fasil were burnt. His family was killed. And then he too also developed an illness, which of course, led to certain other things which are not worth mentioning. Therefore, Hazrat Nuh, Hazrat Ayyub alayhi wasalam, Shaitan had said to Allah, if Ayyub, you take away all of these luxuries from him, then he will stop mentioning your name. Allah said, let's put it to practice. Let's put it to practical. Allah took everything away one by one, but still Hazrat Ayyub continued to propagate the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He still went around propagating the wahdaniyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not for a second you take all of these things away from me, that it will keep me from the maqsad that I have been sent in this world for. 17 years is a difficult time, is a challenging time, it's a long test for someone. You and I are tested for a few weeks, few months, right away we get agitated, we sometimes even lose hope. I've seen young men, they are facing some difficulty in life, they were unable to graduate, they were unable to pass this exam, they were unable to match here or there. They start questioning the wujud of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't believe in God. Is there even a God? Then why all these things are happening to me? This is how simple, or this is how low they get when they are facing small little mishaps in their lives. I'll bring you back to the ayat that I recited. Surah Baqarah, verse number 155. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ. Quran states that we will indeed test you with something from khawf, from fear. وَالْجُوعِ, from hunger. وَنَقْسٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ, by your wealth. وَالْأَنفُسِ, with your souls. وَالثَّمَرَاتِ, with your children. These are the 5 things that Allah says we will most definitely test you with. And therefore don't feel as if we've been sent in this world and we will not be tested. How does Surah Ankabut begin? Alif Lam Mim. أَحَسِبَ النَّاسَ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Do people think the fact that they have said, we have brought Iman, they will not be tested? No. لَقَدْ فَتَنَّ الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِكُمْ. We tested people who lived before you, and we will test people that will come after you, so that we are able to distinguish between mu'mineen and ghayr mu'mineen. This is the test for mu'mineen indeed. Innal bala'a lizzalimi adabun. Walil mu'mini imtihanun. Walil anbiya'i darajatun. When a bala or difficulty is posed and given to you, for a zalim, it is to bring him on the path. For tarbiyat, for adab, for ta'deeb, for a lesson, for ibrat. Walil mu'mini imtihanun. But for mu'min, it's not adab or ta'deeb. It's not teaching them a lesson. Rather, for mu'min, it is merely an exam. Merely a test, an imtihan for you. Walil anbiya'i darajatun. And also anbiya are tested. You and I would say, well, okay, I understand that a zalim is put through a test. Mu'min is put through a test. Because zalim and mu'min, they're going to go ahead and commit sins. But anbiya don't commit sins. Then why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala testing them? Here we understand that sins have nothing to do with the test that you face in your life. If that was the case, if anbiya were facing difficulties, what would they have done in the past? You know, a lot of time we equate, unfortunately, speaking reality, sometimes we equate when someone faces a difficulty, we say, well, this has to do with something they must have done in the past. They must have done something in the past and therefore they are usi cheez ka khumiyaza bhugat rahe hain. Right? You heard that. This is not true. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is increasing your darajat by putting you through this test. So feel that you have been accommodated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, on the contrary, if you have not faced any turmoil or difficulty in your life and no challenges have come, only then you should be questioning. Then why is it that Allah has not challenged me? I know it's a very basic example, and sometimes I even laugh at this example when I give this example, but nonetheless it serves a purpose. The kids that grow up today, they don't know, but there used to be a cartoon, Tom and Jerry. The cat and the mouse, right? And the cat would always try to catch the mouse, but the mouse will always get away. And that's what the director wanted. That's how the script was. The cat put cheese after cheese after cheese after cheese, and at the end there was a trap. The mouse would eat all the cheeses, even jump into the trap, nothing will happen, and leave. This is where the example is. If you have not faced any difficulty, and if cheese is being given to you in a platter and served again and again and again, guess what? At the end, there's a trap. Don't think that, oh, nothing is going to happen to me. Allah tests. Allah tests everyone. He tests you with awlad. Sometimes He tests you by not giving you awlad. He said, oh, Maulana, I understand when Allah does not give someone awlad, that test is understood. But how is He testing when He has bestowed children to someone? He said, having children is not a privilege. Raising them properly, that's where the challenge comes about. Ask those who have one child, ask those who have two children, ask those who have more than that. What are you able to present to the society? What have you been able to raise? Prophet of Islam, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إِذَا مَاتَ إِبْنُ آدَمْ إِنْقَطَعَ عَمَلَهُ إِلَّا عَنْ ثَلَاثٍ. When Ibn Adam, meaning you and I, when he dies, all the actions are cut off, right? When a person is deceased, has left this world, that person cannot do any more amal. Amal are right now. You and I are able to do amal today. We have the choice. We have the ability. But how sad and bad is our choice? That when we have all the good things that we can do, we choose not to do good things. And then this opportunity will be taken away from us. We will not be able to do this. There will come a time when we won't be able to do anything. That's when the death comes upon us. Prophet said, إِذَا مَاتَ إِبْنُ آدَمْ. When a person leaves this world, إِنْقَطَعَ عَمَلَهُ. His amal are cut off. إِلَّا أَنْ ثَلَاثٍ. Except for three things. Meaning what? There are still three things that you can do. that will continue to benefit the deceased. وَلَدٍ صَالِحٍ يَدْعُ لَهُ صَدَقَةٍ جَارِيَةٍ وَعِلْمٍ يُنْتَفِعُ بِهِ. Three things. Number one, an obedient child who prays for the deceased. Therefore, raise children, those who are obedient, not just obedient to you, obedient to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If they are obedient over there, then they will be praising and they will be praying for you. That's why there's a story which says that Hazrat Eisal-e-Thawab, as he was passing by a grave, he rushed by the grave quickly as possible. Someone asked, what happened? He said, I saw the adhab of qabr on the grave. I was able to see, tajassum amal, I was able to see adhab qabr. He said, when I passed by the same grave later on, I saw the adhab was lifted. I asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how is it the same person was the recipient of your adhab earlier and no longer the adhab is being given to him? Allah said, because his son just recited Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. How many times we recite Bismillah? He said, when a son is saying in the name of Allah, the merciful, the beneficent, then it does not suit me to go ahead and send adhab on the father of that person. The son is calling me merciful. The son is calling me beneficent. How should I send adhab on the father? This is how the adhab is lifted from him. So just by merely raising children that are obedient, they'll do dua for you after you leave this world. That is one of the amal and the actions that will continue to benefit you even if you leave this world. Sadaqah jariyah, I don't need to explain sadaqah jariyah to anyone. Anything that you do in this world that could continue to benefit mankind. And lastly, ilmin yuntafi'u bihi. If you leave behind knowledge which is beneficial to the people after you. Rasulullah said these three things, they continue to benefit even when the person leaves this world. Quran says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ. We will test you. Don't think that you have said we have brought iman, you will not be tested. You will be tested. No one is spared from this test. Not Anbiya, not Awliya, not Aimma, not Mu'mineen, not Munafiqeen, not Mushrikeen. Everyone is tested. But only those who after face the test and the trials, وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ, right? Give glad tidings to those who do sabr. And they say what? Whenever a musibat falls upon them, say what? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Indeed, we belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to Him we shall all return. That is a very powerful statement, brothers and sisters. In Islamic terminology, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un is referred to as kalimatu istirja'. Meaning what? Inna, we are, lillahi, the milkiyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are in the possession of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa inna, and indeed we will, ilayhi, we are returning to Him. Many other ayat of Quran, unfortunately I don't have a great deal of time to explore this. Many other ayat of Quran that talk about kullu nafsin da'iqatul maut thumma ilayna turja'un. Every soul must taste the agony of death and then they will be brought back to us. Focus on the word. Raji'un means that we are returning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the state of return. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Usually in Arabic, when you use the word raji'un, anything which with which it refers to something which is, happening at the moment. Allah says, turja'un. Kullu nafsin da'iqatul maut thumma ilayna turja'un. You know what's the difference? He says every soul must taste the agony of death and then they will be brought to us. Brought, sometimes when you say someone has to be brought to that place, it is possible that person does not want to go there. They are being brought, maybe willingly or maybe against their will. Allah knows that we will never want to leave this world. We are so stuck with this world that we have associated ourselves that we may never want to leave it. We may always want to stay here. And therefore, some of us will need to be brought back. ثُمَّ إِلَيْنَا تُرْجَعُونَ. And even then, when a person sees that he has not done nearly enough to provide for his or her salvation, the ayat of Quran will say that when this person dies, when this maut comes upon him, and he has not done nearly enough, he will say this, لَعَلِّي عَمَلُ صَالِحًا فِيمَا تَرَكْتُ. Right? The ayah says that when a person dies and he has not done nearly enough, he will say, لَعَلِّي عَمَلُ صَالِحًا فِيمَا تَرَكْتُ. Oh Allah, return me. رَبِّ ارْجُعُونِي. رَبِّ ارْجُعُونِي. Oh Allah, return me back to this world. لَعَلِّي عَمَلُ صَالِحًا. So that I may do good. فِيمَا تَرَكْتُ. That which I have left. هِيَ كَلِمَةٌ هُوَ قَائِلُهَا. These are merely words coming out of his tongue. This is never going to come true. When we know that we only have one opportunity, we act like sometimes Fir'aun. Just imagine if we had multiple opportunities, how we would be acting. لَعَلِّي عَمَلُ صَالِحًا. Even then this person is saying, maybe I'll do good. Yani when you are giving the second opportunity, even then a person is saying, maybe I shall do some good. Even then he's not sure about it. So brothers and sisters, indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests everyone. Do not be afraid of the test. Do not be afraid of the trials. Because the moment you start getting scared from trials and tribulations, maut is barhaq. There's no farar from maut. Amirul Mu'mineen, Imamul Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, in Dua Kumail that you recite on Thursday nights, Imam says what? Imam speaks about this. He says, كَيْفَ يُمْكِنُ الْفِرَارُ مِنْ حُكُومَتِكَ. How is it possible for me to do farar from your hukumat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? There's no way. I'm in this hukumat of yours and that's it. There's no farar for me. When there's no farar and there's no running away from the hukumat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then how does one become arrogant? The same Ali then mentions and summarizes insan's halat. He said, the beginning of your beginning was najis and your end is also najis. Person is born from najasat. And when he dies, the corpse becomes jifatan, also becomes najis, until is given the ghusl. Then it's purified. He said, you are between the two states of najasat. And what you do in the middle, God knows, and still you are so arrogant. Have some humility. Have the ability to show some humbleness. And that's why Surah Furqan talks about it. When it speaks about Ibadur Rahman, Alladhina yamshuna ala al-ardi hawna, wa idha khatabahumul jahiluna qalu salama. Ibadur Rahman, this elite group of people who are Ibadur Rahman, who are they? When they walk on earth humbly. They don't walk on earth with arrogance. And when Juhala speak to them, they say what? Salam and peace be unto you. Indeed, it is a difficult loss, tough loss. Loss of a loved one is difficult, as I said in the beginning, and then losing someone at a very young age is difficult. Adds on to the difficulty. But when we think about the musibat of Ahlul Bayt, we forget our masaib. Marhum was Jawan in our terminology. You visit Karbala and you find many Jawan in Karbala as well. One of the Jawan in Karbala is Ali Akbar, age 18 years old. Imam Hussein mentions when he's sending Ali Akbar to the battlefield, he says, "Oh Allah, be a witness. لَقَدْ بَرَزَ إِلَيْهِمْ غُلَامٌ." Indeed, a Jawan is going toward the Maqtal, who is the most shabahat and resembles the most to the Prophet in his kalam, in his guftar, in his akhlaq, in his khulq, in his features. And whenever we felt like doing the ziyarat of Rasul, we would look at none other than Ali Akbar. How did Imam bid farewell to this son? I don't have time to go in the Masaib, but a couple of sentences. Imam bids farewell to his young son, sends him to the Maqtal, knowing that there is no return back from it. Ali Akbar does come back once. He comes back to his father only to say, "Oh my father, the thirst is killing me. The heavy armor that I'm wearing is killing me. Is there any sip of water that you can provide?" How tough it is for a father that a young son asks for a sip of water and the father is unable to provide water to him. He says, "Oh my son, go back to the battlefield. Soon your grandfather will provide you from Kawthar." Ali Akbar says, "If there was a sip of water," Imam says, "and take my ring and place it in your mouth." Imam uses his tongue as well. Ali Akbar says, "Oh my Baba, your tongue is drier than mine." He goes back to Maqtal. He performs the jihad, and then comes the time when he falls to the ground. He sends his last salutations. "Assalamu alayka ya abata. Ala lanatullah al-qawm al-zalimin. Wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu. Ayya munqalibin yanqalibun. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un." We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our sins. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to overlook the mistakes and the lapses that have come about in our lives. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to the right path. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us on the path of Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wassalam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to spend our life according to the teachings of Quran and Ahlul Bayt, inshallah. Please recite another Surah Fatiha for marhum Dr. Amir Syed ibn Mr. Imtiaz Syed. Surah Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. اللهم صل على محمد. Shall I proceed to namaz?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد النبي وعلى ذريته وعلى أهل بيته. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولله الحمد. الله أكبر الله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد. أشهد أن عليًا ولي الله أشهد أن عليًا ولي الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله